The midnight street is silent, almost serene, until the red and blue glare stains the windshield of a sleek black luxury sedan. No swerving, no broken taillight, no crime except one, driving while black in a neighborhood where she doesn't belong. The patrol cruiser idles like a predator in the shadows. Two officers step out with the swagger of men who already wrote the ending of this story. Flashlights slice through the darkness, beams hitting leather seats and power locks. Step out of the vehicle. Dr. Alicia Morrison complies. 20 years of legal training drilled into her the survival code. Stay calm, stay compliant, stay alive. Slow movements, open hands, no sudden gestures. She's argued in front of federal judges and dismantled mob bosses on the stand. But right now, the stakes are far more primal. Just making it through this stop breathing. The younger officer lunges without warning, ripping her purse from her shoulder. The strap snaps. Papers and pens spill across the wet asphalt, mixing with shards of her cracked phone screen. The glare of headlights makes the pages shimmer. Legal briefs, evidence files, fragments of lives she's sworn to protect, now trampled under muddy boots. Turn around, hands behind your back. The handcuffs bite into her wrists. These are the same hands that drafted indictments against governors, the same wrists that signed orders sending corrupt sheriffs to prison. Tonight they're shackled like she's nothing but a suspect. The officers don't know it yet, but they've just arrested the one woman with the power to end their careers. Downtown, the federal building stands like a fortress, dark except for one corner office still burning with light. Inside, stacks of classified files sprawl across polished mahogany desks, cases that whisper of corruption, cover-ups, conspiracies rotting the city from within. And at the center of every document is a name that leads back to the very badge now shoving her into the back seat of a patrol car. Dr. Alicia Morrison has toppled mayors, dismantled cartels, and gutted entire police departments with the sharp edge of truth. Tonight, she was driving home from a war council, the strategy session for her biggest case yet. A case aimed directly at the rot within this city's police force. The cuffs tighten, the door slams. Her father's voice echoes in her head, a childhood lesson whispered like a prayer. Justice isn't given, Alicia. It's taken. Attorney General Robert Morrison raised his daughter on courtroom truths. The law protects everyone equally. Justice always wins. Power always bends to accountability. Noble words, heavy with belief. But on nights like this, they feel like bedtime stories for children who never had to live under flashing red and blue lights. The real Alicia Morrison, the one feared in courtrooms and whispered about in police locker rooms, exists miles away, inside the federal building. That building holds her true identity. A prosecutor who topples entire departments, not a woman being paraded like a criminal. At precinct headquarters, Captain Janet Wilson signs off on the night's arrests with bored efficiency. Another successful bust in a wealthy neighborhood. Another name shuffled into the system. She doesn't even glance at the paperwork before scrawling her signature. She has no idea she's just authorized the arrest of the very federal prosecutor who has spent 8 relentless months building a case to annihilate her department from the inside. That case file, stuffed with wiretap transcripts, hidden camera footage, and bank records dripping with dirty money, sits 3 floors above Wilson's office. Tomorrow morning, it was supposed to fuel coordinated raids on familiar names, sergeants, lieutenants, captains. By tomorrow morning, Alicia Morrison planned to take down half this precinct. Instead, tonight, she's shoved in the back of a patrol car, wrists raw from steel cuffs designed for criminals, not federal officers. On the police radio, the arresting officers brag about teaching a lesson. They laugh, celebrating their prize catch, blind to the truth. They think she doesn't belong in a luxury car, in a wealthy neighborhood, in their city. What they don't know is she belongs in federal courtrooms where their fates are sealed. They don't know she belongs to a family that has spent decades dismantling the kind of corruption they practice. Her breath fogs against the cold glass window as she repeats her father's lesson silently. Stay calm. Document everything. Wait for your moment. Justice isn't a single blow. Justice is brick by brick. Tonight, they just handed her the last brick she needed. The precinct buzzes like a hive under bad lighting. Harsh fluorescents stretch shadows across cracked linoleum floors. The air stinks of bleach and burnt coffee. Booking is an assembly line of humiliation. Fingerprints, mug shots, personal inventory. Strip dignity, reduce humans to barcodes. Name? The desk sergeant grunts. Dr. Alicia Morrison. Occupation? Attorney. Snickers ripple like cheap applause. Officer Mitchell leans on the wall, smirking. Another lawyer who thinks she's special. Sergeant Coleman adds with a sneer. Next, she'll say she knows the mayor. The irony slices deep. She doesn't just know the mayor, she's had dinner with him. She doesn't just know federal judges, she's written the briefs they've quoted in landmark rulings. One call could collapse this precinct like a house of cards. But she stays silent. Revealing her connections too soon would only fuel their aggression. I need to make my phone call, Alicia says, voice steady, deliberate. You'll make your call when we say, Coleman snaps. 2 decades of unchecked authority sharpen his tone. He's never faced consequences, never imagined he could. Detective Amanda Davis lingers by the doorway, arms crossed, brow furrowed. Something doesn't add up. This woman, calm under pressure, precise with her words, doesn't act like a panicked suspect. She acts like someone who knows the law inside out. Someone dangerous. The process grinds forward. Jewelry removed, jacket surrendered. Business cards from the Attorney General's office land on the property tray, ignored. Coleman glances and scoffs. Fancy clothes. Drug money buys nice things. His words hang in the stale air, heavy with prejudice and power unchecked. Alicia meets his gaze, unflinching. I demand to speak with your supervisor. You demand? Mitchell leans closer, his voice dripping mockery. You're not demanding anything. You're staying where we put you. You'll learn how the real world works. The real world. Alicia nearly laughs. The real world is indictments with her signature on them. The real world is crooked officers breaking under cross-examination. The real world is federal prison jumpsuits replacing blue uniforms. Charges? Davis finally asks, her voice low but firm. Coleman rifles through paperwork. Suspicious behavior in an upscale neighborhood. Failure to comply with lawful orders. That's not a charge, Alicia cuts in sharply. That's not even a misdemeanor. Mitchell snorts. Listen to the lawyer talk. Thinks she knows our job better than we do. She does. Better than any of them. Well enough to dismantle this entire department. But right now, the power is an illusion, and it's on their side. Phone's broken. Coleman lies with ease. Try again tomorrow. The lie echoes like a gunshot in Davis's ears. She shifts, uneasy. This isn't sloppy. It's deliberate. Fabricated charges, broken phone excuses, civil rights red flags are multiplying. The holding cell slams shut behind Alicia. 8 feet by 6. A concrete bench, a steel toilet, bars that mock freedom. Mitchell grins through the bars. Hotel room's ready. Comfortable? I've seen worse, Alicia replies truthfully. She has. Federal prisons she inspected. Interrogation rooms where men confess to sins that destroyed entire dynasties. The officers laugh and walk away, smug. To them, the night is done. Another lesson taught. But Detective Davis doesn't leave. She approaches quietly, watching Alicia's steady posture, her unbroken calm. You said you're an attorney? Federal prosecutor, Alicia corrects. Civil Rights Division. The words hit Davis like ice water. Federal prosecutor, civil rights. The exact combination that spells career death for dirty cops. What kind of cases? Davis presses. Police corruption, Alicia answers, voice flat, eyes sharp. The blood drains from Davis's face. This isn't a routine arrest. This is a nightmare, the kind that ruins entire departments. She swallows hard. I need to make some calls. Yes, Alicia agrees, her voice cool as steel. You do. All around them, the precinct hums with ignorant confidence. Officers type reports, sip coffee, laugh at their jokes about uppity suspects. They have no idea the woman in the cell is the storm already headed for them. And tonight, they've made it personal. Suspicious behavior in an upscale neighborhood. Failure to comply with lawful orders. Sergeant Coleman reads the words like they mean something, like his scribbles on a form could ever hold weight against federal law. That's not a charge, Alicia cuts in, her tone sharper now, steel laced with disdain. That's not even a misdemeanor. Mitchell smirks, leaning back against the wall. Listen to the lawyer talk. Thinks she knows our job better than we do. She does. She knows their job better than any of them. She's written legislation on police reform, trained federal agents who investigate departments just like this one. She's sent officers with shinier badges than theirs to prison for decades. But knowledge without immediate power is like a weapon without ammunition. Deadly in theory, frustrating in practice. Tonight, the apparent power rests on their hips, in their smug grins, in the keys that lock her away. I want my phone call, Alicia says again, slower this time, like a final warning. Coleman doesn't flinch. Phone's broken. Try again tomorrow. The lie rolls off his tongue with veteran ease. 20 years of unchecked authority trained him to treat lies as tools of the trade. Detective Davis shifts uncomfortably, her eyes narrowing. She knows what she just witnessed. Fabricated charges, constitutional violations, deliberate obstruction. Red flags are piling up like evidence in a warehouse, too many to ignore. The cell door screeches open, metal grinding against metal, the sound ricocheting off concrete like chains dragging across history. Justice twisted into punishment. Your hotel room awaits, Mitchell sneers, gesturing like a doorman in hell. Alicia steps inside, 8 feet by 6. A concrete slab for a bed. A steel toilet shoved in the corner. Bars like ribs of a beast that feeds on lives. Comfortable? Coleman taunts. Alicia meets his gaze, calm, unblinking. I've seen worse. And she has. She's walked through evidence rooms stacked with cocaine bricks seized from dirty cops. She's stared down cartel bosses who confessed through tears. She's toured federal prisons where former chiefs of police begged her for leniency. Compared to that, this cell is nothing but another stage. She knows one phone call could detonate careers. But she lets the silence hang, lets them believe they've won. Satisfied, the officers swagger away, their laughter echoing through the hallway. Another night's work, another lesson taught, another reminder to anyone who forgets the boundaries they enforce through fear. But Davis doesn't laugh. She lingers, watching the woman inside the cell. Something about her composure gnaws at her. No panic, no pleading, just an unshakable calm and language too precise to belong to the average suspect. She approaches the bars. Ma'am, you said you're an attorney? Federal prosecutor, Alicia corrects, voice steady. Civil Rights Division. The words land like ice water poured down Davis's spine. Federal prosecutor, civil rights. The exact pairing that dismantles police careers like wrecking balls through glass towers. What kind of cases do you handle? Davis asks, though part of her already knows. Police corruption, Alicia answers simply, her voice quiet thunder. Davis's face pales. The nightmare scenario every honest cop dreads has just materialized. A civil rights prosecutor, unlawfully arrested, locked inside their own precinct, watching every move. I need to make some calls, Davis mutters, already feeling the weight of careers collapsing. Yes, Alicia replies, her tone sharp as a blade. You do. Around them, the precinct hums with ignorance. Reports clack into databases. Coffee machines hiss. Officers chuckle about uppity suspects who need to learn their place. None of them realize the storm in their holding cell. None of them understand that the woman sitting quietly behind bars is already building the case that will bury them. Davis retreats to her desk, the glow of her computer screen washing her face pale. The night carries on as if nothing has changed, but everything has. The federal prosecutor sits in their holding cell, patient, watchful, unbroken, and tomorrow the reckoning begins. Federal prosecutors aren't ordinary lawyers. They're war machines dressed in tailored suits. They carry the weight of entire government resources, capable of litigating cases that take years, capable of dismantling entire institutions piece by piece. Civil rights attorneys, specialists in exposing police misconduct, public corruption units, grim reapers for dirty departments. And now, one of them sits in their cell. Captain Wilson leans forward, masking her unease. "What cases are you currently handling?" Alicia's eyes narrow. "I can't discuss ongoing investigations." Her voice is calm, even, but the silence that follows is deafening, silence that screams louder than any answer. Wilson knows the pattern. Federal investigations into police departments are never random. They're surgical. Wiretaps, financial audits, informants, surveillance that drags on for months before a single raid ever happens. By the time federal prosecutors walk into court, the case is already airtight. Coleman barges in, waving a bag. "We found drugs in her vehicle." Alicia doesn't even blink. "No, you didn't." Her certainty slams against the room like a gavel. No fear, no hesitation, just truth, razor sharp. Planted evidence works only if the suspect panics, if they fold under intimidation, if they lack the knowledge to push back. But Alicia Morrison is a federal prosecutor. Intimidation is her daily breakfast. "Are you calling my officers liars?" Wilson demands, her voice tight. "I'm stating facts," Alicia replies, her tone like steel snapping. "Those drugs weren't in my car because I don't use drugs. Your officers planted evidence to justify an unlawful arrest." Direct accusations. No hedging. No diplomatic softening. Just raw prosecutorial confidence backed by decades of experience. Wilson feels the ground shift beneath her. This isn't just a bad arrest. This is the making of a federal misconduct case. Every procedure will be scrutinized. Every decision will require justification. Every officer's career is suddenly dangling over a federal courtroom. The hunters just became the hunted. Coleman re-enters, his swagger dimmed. "Problem, Captain?" "Run her prints again. Check federal databases," Wilson orders sharply. "Already did. Clean record. Too clean." And that's the problem. Federal prosecutors go through background checks brutal enough to make generals sweat. Security clearances dig through every detail of their lives, financials, travel, personal associations. A spotless record isn't suspicious. It's proof. Proof she's exactly who she claims to be. Davis tugs Wilson aside, whispering urgently. Eyes flick to the glowing computer screens. Federal records. Digital breadcrumbs. Searches like these don't vanish. They trigger oversight agencies, leave audit trails, raise alarms in places no precinct wants attention from. But Davis pushes forward. Honest cops don't look away. She types, heart hammering. The first search pings back instantly. Dr. Alicia Morrison, Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division, security clearance, top secret. Davis stares at the words. Top secret clearance. For a civil rights prosecutor, that's not ordinary. That screams involvement in national security, in organized crime cases stretching across state lines. This isn't some desk attorney. This is a government scalpel designed to carve out corruption. She scrolls further. Harvard Law School. Clerkship with Chief Judge Patricia Williams. Assistant U.S. Attorney, Southern District. Current assignment, Public Corruption Task Force. The three words hit like a nuclear strike. Public Corruption Task Force. Wilson peers over her shoulder, reading aloud, almost disbelieving. Public Corruption Task Force. The phrase carries weight that crushes entire departments. This isn't just a prosecutor. This is the prosecutor. The nightmare every crooked cop hopes never walks through their door. "What did you find?" Wilson's voice cracks. Davis swallows. "We arrested a federal prosecutor, and not just any prosecutor. She specializes in police corruption cases." For a moment, silence eats the room. But in the background, the precinct hums on in ignorant bliss. Officers type reports, sip burnt coffee, swap jokes. They have no idea disaster is blooming in real time. No idea that the woman they shoved into a holding cell holds the kind of clearance and authority that could wipe out this building before sunrise. Wilson's eyes lock on the glowing screen. She knows what this means. Security clearances aren't handed out like candy. Task force assignments aren't given by accident. This woman isn't just powerful. She's trusted at the highest levels of government. The question isn't if this precinct burns, it's when. This could be a problem. Davis's voice is barely more than a whisper, but it cuts through the hum of printers and the hiss of the coffee machine like a blade. Her cursor flicks across federal records, each click peeling back another layer of their nightmare. Recent cases, successful prosecutions, names of departments that once seemed untouchable scrolling like an executioner's roll call. Phoenix PD, 18 officers indicted, 7 convicted. Entire department restructured under federal oversight. Baltimore County Sheriff's Office. Corruption investigation led to total leadership replacement. Federal monitors still embedded. Detroit Metro Task Force. Dismantled after Morrison uncovered systematic evidence tampering. Each case is a blueprint for destruction. Months of wiretaps, silent audits, flipped insiders, and methodical takedowns of dirty cops. Each case ends with careers burned to ash. "Captain," Davis's tone cracks, "you need to see this." Wilson leans in, eyes scanning summaries that feel less like reports and more like obituaries for police empires. The pattern is unmistakable. Overwhelming evidence, airtight cases, no escape routes. "How many?" he murmurs. 47 successful prosecutions in 5 years, Davis answers, her fingers trembling as she scrolls. 0 defeats. She's undefeated. Federal prosecutors don't achieve perfection by luck. They build it brick by brick, surveillance, evidence, leverage. And now those same skills are trained on their department. "Check her current cases," Wilson orders, voice low but taut. Davis navigates deeper, fighting federal firewalls designed to protect active investigations. Limited data flickers on the screen like a warning flare. Jurisdiction, Eastern District. Active investigation, local police departments. Duration, 8 months. Davis goes pale. Wilson feels his stomach hollow out. 8 months. 8 months of phone taps. 8 months of financial audits. 8 months of invisible eyes and ears collecting every lie, every theft, every false arrest. "We need to call the chief." Wilson's hand hovers over the phone like it might bite him. Midnight calls leave records. Records become evidence. Evidence becomes convictions. In this room, even panic is incriminating. Downstairs, Coleman finishes arrest paperwork. Mitchell inventories evidence with casual strokes of his pen, unaware each stroke could now be an act of obstruction, conspiracy to violate civil rights, deprivation of rights under color of law, federal charges with 20-year maximums. Davis stares at Morrison's headshot on the DOJ site. High resolution, professional, poised. Her dark skin glows under studio lights, a confident smile hinting at someone who's been underestimated too many times to count. The caption reads, "Dr. Alicia Morrison leads federal efforts to combat police corruption and protect civil rights." The same woman sits silently in their holding cell, a storm disguised as calm. "We made a mistake," Davis admits. The words are heavy enough to crack the linoleum. Wilson nods grimly. Mistakes against federal prosecutors don't get fixed. They get prosecuted. He looks toward the holding cells. Morrison sits perfectly still, her back straight, her gaze steady. She's not broken. She's recording. Every smirk, every slur, every procedural violation. Every minute she's detained is another nail in their coffin. She's building her case right now, Wilson mutters. The case that ends us. Davis reaches for the phone again, but her fingers hesitate. Calls mean admissions. Admissions mean evidence. Evidence means prison. Upstairs, 3 floors above, automated DOJ systems quietly trigger alerts. A top-secret clearance holder has missed her scheduled check-in. Federal response protocols awaken like a sleeping giant. They don't know it yet, but the walls are already closing in. Somewhere deep inside the Justice Department's servers, a red icon flickers. Dr. Alicia Morrison's absence has been detected. Databases designed to protect federal prosecutors from retaliation ignite with silent urgency. In the federal building's Emergency Operations Center, amber warnings bathe analysts' faces in a low, pulsing glow. Location pings, encrypted comm logs, threat assessments, all of it cascading across multiple screens like a digital heartbeat of danger. Night shift supervisors exchange tense looks. No one asks whether to act. The protocols have already decided. Federal agents are moving. Miles away, Attorney General Robert Morrison works late in his home office. Files from his state's highest-profile corruption case sprawl across his desk, illuminated by the soft glow of a banker's lamp. His daughter's investigation has consumed months of delicate maneuvering, double-blind strategies, and airtight evidence chains. He expects a routine check-in by now, a brief update about tonight's strategy session, maybe a text confirming safe arrival home. The silence on his secure line feels like a thunderclap. Back at the precinct, Davis tries to keep her voice neutral as she corners Sergeant Rodriguez near the break room. "Something's wrong with tonight's arrest," she murmurs. "What kind of wrong?" Rodriguez asks. "Federal wrong." Rodriguez goes still. He knows that phrase. Federal wrongs don't get fixed by calling City Hall or leaning on union reps. Federal wrongs don't pause for political favors. And federal prosecutors don't forgive police misconduct for collegial reasons. Inside her office, Wilson paces like a caged animal, scrolling through departmental policies on detaining federal employees. The rules are clear. Immediate notification to DOJ liaison, supervisory approval for extended holding, access to counsel within strict timeframes. They've followed none of them. Each missed procedure is another felony waiting to happen. Radio chatter across the city spikes. Federal vehicles, unmarked sedans, black SUVs, discreet but fast, streak toward downtown. Government buildings light up with unusual activity. Davis monitors federal frequencies from her desk, her trained ear recognizing the tempo of a major operation ramping up. She's seen this before, just never from the wrong side. At his home, Robert Morrison's secure phone finally rings. The coded language from the other end is short, crisp, and devastating. A missing federal prosecutor. Last known location, a downtown precinct. Automated alerts already at cabinet-level review. "Deploy response teams immediately," he orders, voice flat, but his knuckles white. Within minutes, the gears of federal power grind into motion. FBI field agents on standby, U.S. Marshals coordinating, Justice Department Internal Affairs preparing sealed warrants. This is the system built to protect prosecutors from local retaliation, and it's coming down on Wilson S. precinct like a storm. Back in the station, Wilson whispers to Davis, "We need to resolve this now." Davis stares at her monitor. "Federal attention already arrived," she replies softly. "We're not ahead of it. We're inside it." Downstairs, Coleman and Mitchell continue their routine like sleepwalkers, filing evidence reports that could soon be reclassified as exhibits in their own criminal trials. The holding area hums under fluorescent lights, concrete walls sweating with the damp of late-night custody. Steel bars separate accused from accusers who, tonight, may deserve to switch places. Dr. Alicia Morrison sits upright on the bench, serene and deadly. 20 years of legal practice taught her the rhythm of federal timelines. She knows exactly how long it takes for the protocols to kick in. She knows help is coming, whether the precinct cooperates or not. Upstairs, Davis digs deeper into federal databases. Higher clearances lock her out, but even the limited operational data she can see is a blade at her throat. Active investigation file, Eastern District Police Departments. Lead prosecutor, Dr. Alicia Morrison. Evidence gathering phase, complete. Grand jury. Proceedings, scheduled. Indictments, in preparation. Wilson leans over her shoulder, face ashen. 8 months, he murmurs. They've been watching us for 8 months. Davis nods. Everything we've done, every call, every transfer, every dollar, wiretaps, audits, informants, methodical evidence gathering. Wilson's voice drops to a hoarse whisper. Federal investigations don't begin with arrests. They end with them. A few blocks away, a convoy of unmarked vehicles turns onto the street outside the precinct. Inside, Alicia Morrison closes her eyes and draws a slow, steady breath. The walls around her aren't closing in. They're closing in on them. The precinct phone rings. Not the lazy trill of a routine call, but the sharp, insistent pulse of federal authority. Everyone freezes. Calls like this don't come from beat cops or city officials. They come from the top. Captain Wilson lifts the receiver with trembling fingers. "This is Captain Wilson." A crisp voice cuts across the line, cool as steel. "This is Deputy Attorney General Sarah Chen. We need to discuss your current detention of Federal Prosecutor Dr. Alicia Morrison." The words flatten Wilson's authority in an instant. A Deputy Attorney General doesn't ask. She commands, cabinet-level power reaching straight into a precinct at midnight. "Ma'am, we can explain." Explanations occur during formal proceedings. "Release Dr. Morrison immediately." Wilson swallows hard. Local excuses don't soften federal charges. They become evidence in them. The call ends with the sharp finality of a gavel strike. In the interview room, Wilson and Davis attempt their desperate performance. The walls smell of stale coffee and confessions. Alicia Morrison enters, no longer a detainee, but the storm at the center of their unraveling careers. "Dr. Morrison, I'm Captain Wilson. I apologize for tonight's misunderstanding." Alicia sits, spine straight, gaze calm. 20 years of depositions trained her to detect fear disguised as courtesy. "Misunderstanding suggests accident," she replies evenly. "Tonight involved deliberate violations of federal law." The words land like hammer blows. Wilson shifts. Davis leans forward, soft-voiced, trying diplomacy. "We're prepared to release you. All charges dropped. Record expunged." Alicia's smile is surgical, sharp. "That's not how federal civil rights violations work. This is already a federal case. Has been for 8 months." The room goes still. 8 months of surveillance. 8 months of evidence gathering. Tonight wasn't a mistake. It was the last nail in the coffin. "What do you have?" Wilson whispers, though she already fears the answer. Alicia delivers it like a closing argument. Wiretap evidence of conspiracy to violate civil rights. Financial records documenting theft through asset forfeiture. Video evidence of excessive force incidents covered up by command staff. 43 officers face federal charges. 12 supervisors, command staff included. Wilson's face drains of color. Command staff, that means her career, her pension, her freedom, all shredded. Davis tries one last plea. "Is there any cooperation that might—" "Federal prosecutions proceed according to evidence, not negotiations." Alicia cuts in, voice ice cold. Wilson pushes back from the table, pacing like a trapped animal. Davis stares at her computer screen, already seeing the indictments written in fluorescent glow. Downstairs, the cell door slides open with metallic weight. Alicia gathers her belongings, legal briefs scattered like broken promises, a cracked phone that's now Exhibit A in a federal obstruction case. Davis hands them back with shaking hands. "Your property," she murmurs. Alicia looks her in the eye. "Evidence." The word hangs in the air like a sentence. Wilson announces stiffly, "You're free to go." But freedom is deceptive. Alicia isn't just free. She's the executioner, walking calmly from a precinct that doesn't yet realize the federal hammer is already in motion. Outside, black SUVs idle a few blocks away. Inside, the precinct's fluorescent lights hum as if nothing happened. But everyone in that building has already lost. Tonight's misconduct isn't speculation. It's now documented. Alicia Morrison carries not just memory, but prosecutorial testimony, reinforced by every physical proof in her possession. Wilson watches her prepare to leave. The sight of a federal prosecutor walking out after illegal detention, turning the air inside the precinct electric with fear. Alicia's composure never falters. She isn't rattled. She isn't bitter. She's professional. That alone makes her more dangerous than any shouting protest. Her final words slice clean. "Doctor, this doesn't need to destroy careers. Careers built on corruption destroy themselves." The statement isn't a threat. It's an indictment, delivered with prosecutorial certainty, backed by the weight of federal law. "Federal cases proceed according to evidence and law," she continues, voice sharp as a gavel strike, "not local politics, and some mistakes can't be undone quietly." At the front desk, nervous energy buzzes like fluorescent lights ready to burn out. Officers suddenly become model employees, every form perfectly signed, every protocol followed like it's scripture. Professional courtesies now appear too late to matter. The return of Alicia's property becomes a performance of exaggerated respect. The desk sergeant presents the evidence bags carefully, voice steady but too respectful. "Your belongings, ma'am." Alicia inspects them. Legal briefs, crumpled but legible. Phone, cracked but alive. Items once tossed aside, now handled as though radioactive. "Thank you," she replies without warmth. Professional acknowledgement. Federal prosecutors don't thank officers for respecting the Constitution. They expect it. Wilson approaches, her steps measured, her expression carefully engineered for damage control. Apology without confession, courtesy without liability. "Dr. Morrison, again, our sincere apologies for tonight's misunderstanding." "Understood." The single word lands like a verdict. Cold, clipped, efficient. She doesn't waste syllables on meaningless courtesies. Davis steps forward to escort her toward the exit. Unlike Wilson, her sincerity isn't fabricated. Her conscience leaks through. "Ma'am, for what it's worth, some of us try to do this job right." Alicia pauses just long enough to glance back. Her tone softens a fraction. "I know, recognition granted, but limited." Federal prosecutions distinguish between individual integrity and systematic corruption. One doesn't erase the other. The front doors open to midnight air. Alicia steps out, regaining freedom through federal intervention, not local recognition. Rights restored, but only after violation. Behind her, the wheels of federal justice keep grinding, slow but unstoppable. Wilson watches through glass as Alicia walks calmly to her BMW. Coleman mutters hopefully at her side. "Think we fixed it?" Wilson's honesty, for once, cuts through. "No. Federal investigations don't stop because we correct paperwork. 8 months of evidence doesn't vanish with apologies." Outside, Alicia slides into her car with deliberate calm. She adjusts mirrors, notes the scratches left by the unlawful search, starts the engine. No drama, no revenge. Just meticulous documentation. Everything remembered. Everything prepared for testimony. The BMW pulls away with measured grace. A quiet departure that leaves the precinct drowning in noise, whispered speculation, unspoken dread. Wilson returns to her office, footsteps heavy, knowing damage control has failed. Davis lingers in the hallway, unease tightening her chest. "What happens now?" she asks. Wilson doesn't sugarcoat. "We wait." For what? Federal indictments. The words fall like a death sentence. Federal indictments don't just end careers, they end lives as people know them. Careers collapse, pensions vanish, reputations dissolve, and prison cells wait with open jaws. Downstairs, Coleman continues routine procedures, oblivious that every keystroke, every filed report, every misstep may already be evidence under federal surveillance. The fog of federal prosecution settles over the precinct, heavy, inescapable, suffocating. Normal operations continue, the kind that unknowingly build federal cases. Mitchell sits hunched over paperwork, choosing every word with surgical care, weaving legal fiction meant to withstand courtroom scrutiny. He believes the right phrasing will hold under cross-examination. What he doesn't understand is that federal prosecutors like Alicia Morrison specialize in deconstructing police reports. They dismantle false narratives the way surgeons cut out tumors, with precision, leaving nothing intact. Coffee brews. Reports clatter out of printers. Conversations drift across the bullpen. Stories about teaching lessons to suspects who forgot their place. None of them realized the suspect tonight wasn't a criminal. She was their prosecutor. Every laugh, every file, every careless word becomes evidence in a corruption case already 8 months old. Meanwhile, Alicia drives through the dark streets, focus unshaken. Her cracked phone glows with missed calls from federal security teams. Automated alerts, her prolonged detention already triggered federal emergency protocols. She dials in, voice steady. "This is Dr. Morrison confirming safe release from local detention." "Understood. Debrief scheduled for 600 hours. No wasted words, no anger, just professional efficiency. Tonight's illegal detention isn't an accident. It's now a weapon. Evidence folded neatly into Operation Clean Badge, months of methodical work given final devastating proof. Ahead, the federal building rises like a fortress in the night. Sanctuary. A place where rights are defended, where violations become ammunition. Freedom comes with a cost. And tonight, that cost will fall on every officer who thought power insulated them from law. Back at the precinct, Wilson stares out at the empty streets. The silence feels like a countdown. Alicia is gone, safe, untouchable, now reinforced by federal machinery. Wilson knows what the others don't. The crisis isn't over. It's beginning. Davis approaches, voice low. "Captain, what do we tell them?" "Nothing. They deserve to know." "Know what? That we arrested a federal prosecutor investigating police corruption? That 43 officers face federal charges? That careers are over the moment indictments drop?" Wilson's tone is flat, stripped of illusion. Truth now is a weapon. Shared too early, it detonates morale. Some knowledge has to be timed with precision, or it destroys before federal action arrives. The night limps forward with false normalcy. Phones ring, files close. But federal evidence gathering has reached completion. Tonight's constitutional violations gave prosecutors the final pieces they needed. And then, dawn. The precinct awakens not to routine, but to occupation. Black SUVs roll in like a coordinated phalanx, headlights cutting through the morning mist. Doors slam in sequence. FBI field agents, U.S. Marshals, Justice Department investigators. Federal authority assembled in overwhelming force. Morning shift officers arrive to find their precinct transformed into a crime scene. Yellow tape stretches across entrances. Evidence teams sweep hallways. Federal marshals post at doors, their presence a reminder. Local law stops here. From her office, Wilson watches her kingdom dissolve. 25 years of authority vanish in seconds under the weight of federal badges. Her breath shortens as voices echo through the lobby. "Federal agents! We have warrants!" The words are heavy, final. Warrants signed by federal judges, backed by the Constitution, wielded with the inevitability of a falling gavel. Davis recognizes the woman leading them. Supervisory Special Agent Jennifer Roberts, FBI Public Corruption Unit. Roberts' reputation precedes her, a career forged in dismantling dirty departments, a hunter of corrupt badges. "Agent Roberts," Davis greets, voice subdued. "Detective Davis, we'll need all personnel in the main briefing room." Professional courtesy, extended only to those who still deserve it. The briefing room fills. Night shift officers, detained for questioning, day shift officers, arriving confused into federal occupation. The air feels like a courtroom before sentencing. Roberts stands before them, voice sharp, uncompromising. 8 months ago, the Justice Department initiated Operation Clean Badge, a systematic investigation into corruption, civil rights violations, and criminal conspiracy within this department. The evidence is conclusive. Charges are pending. Silence spreads like a contagion. The words land heavier than handcuffs. Careers, reputations, families, futures, all collapsing under federal proof. And then the doors open. Dr. Alicia Morrison enters, flanked by federal escorts. She wears the same professional calm she carried through illegal detention, but now her presence is transformed. Officers stiffen, recognition hitting like a physical blow. The woman they cuffed, the suspect they mocked, the victim they thought powerless. Now she stands revealed as their prosecutor. Roberts turns, voice steady with respect. "Dr. Alicia Morrison, Lead Prosecutor, Civil Rights Division, Public Corruption Task Force." The introduction detonates in the room. Last night's prisoner is today's authority. The woman they tried to break is the one who will break them. Captain Janet Wilson finally sees the full scale of the catastrophe. The irony is perfect, brutal. A federal prosecutor investigating police corruption, illegally arrested by the very corruption she was hunting. Her personal testimony now welds itself to months of systematic evidence gathering. What began as a routine stop has become a federal weapon forged in real time. Agent Roberts steps to the center of the room, voice steady with prosecutorial authority. "We will present the evidence. 4 categories, each one conclusive. Together, unbreakable." Category 1, video documentation. The wall screens flare to life. Dashboard footage plays in crisp courtroom quality. Last night's stop, projected for every officer to see. No traffic violation, no broken taillight, no reasonable suspicion. Just headlights cutting through a quiet street, then Coleman stepping into frame, weapon holstered, but voice heavy with authority he no longer possesses. The footage damns them, Miranda rights ignored, consent fabricated, handcuffs applied without cause. Coleman stares at himself on the screen, jaw tightening. The room knows, this isn't training video, it's evidence. Category 2, audio surveillance. Speakers crackle, wiretaps, 8 months of them. Conspiracies whispered in squad cars and locker rooms, now amplified for all to hear. Wilson's own voice fills the air. "Keep the drug arrests up in Riverside. Property values depend on maintaining standards." Her words hang like a noose. A captain on record describing systematic civil rights violations as departmental policy. Then Mitchell's voice, shaky, younger. "Planned enough to make it stick. Feds don't care about small possession." Now the room does. The sound is inescapable. Federal silence weighs heavier than shouting. Category 3, financial records. Screens flip to spreadsheets, bank ledgers glowing with cold math. Federal auditors mapped every seized dollar, every asset forfeiture funneled into private accounts. Coleman's name appears beside deposits, Mitchell's too. Wilson's account numbers glare largest of all, 6 figures in unexplained transfers. Numbers don't lie. Every dollar stolen becomes another nail in the coffin. Category 4, tonight. Dr. Alicia Morrison steps forward, calm, composed, her cracked phone in hand, her notes sharp, her eyes fixed on the room. Last night, I experienced firsthand what this department has practiced systematically: racial profiling, unlawful detention, evidence tampering, violation of constitutional rights. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. The weight is in her presence. A prosecutor, a victim, and the government's weapon, all in one. Her testimony is the blade that severs their last defense. Roberts turns. A stack of sealed folders waits on the desk. She lifts the first. Federal indictments, prepared, filed, signed. The names fall like hammers. Sergeant Brad Coleman, conspiracy to violate civil rights, evidence tampering, perjury, 20 years erased in one sentence. His pension gone, his badge meaningless, his future a prison jumpsuit. Officer Ryan Mitchell, civil rights violations, evidence tampering, criminal conspiracy. A young career snapped before it ever fully began. His eyes widen, denial collapsing into despair. Captain Janet Wilson, racketeering, conspiracy, money laundering, leadership of a criminal enterprise under RICO statutes. 20-year sentences standard. Leadership turned into liability. Federal marshals step forward, warrants in hand, handcuffs gleaming. You have the right to remain silent. The irony is lethal. Officers who mocked Miranda rights now receive them. Constitutional protections extended to the very people who violated them. Coleman's wrists lock in steel. Mitchell sobs as cuffs close. Wilson's face hardens into stone, a captain reduced to a case number. Dr. Morrison watches, her satisfaction not personal, but professional. This isn't vengeance. It's justice, constitutional, methodical, undeniable. The precinct is no longer a station. It is a federal crime scene. Evidence bags replace case files. Screens show banking records instead of patrol logs. Detective Davis approaches Morrison, voice quiet, respectful. "Ma'am, thank you for not including everyone." Alicia meets her eyes, measured. Federal prosecutions target corruption, not conscience. The distinction lands heavy. Some will fall. A few may rise again. But the department itself is finished. Outside, the sun crests the horizon. Sirens fade into morning traffic. Inside, a once powerful command staff sits cuffed, awaiting transport. The hunter has become the hunted. And the prosecutor they tried to break is the one signing their fate. The courtroom smelled of old wood and new justice. Reporters scribbled furiously in the gallery, their pens trying to catch history before it left the room. Dr. Alicia Morrison stood tall at the prosecution table, not just a federal prosecutor, but a woman who had been handcuffed, humiliated, and underestimated, now turning her scars into sharpened weapons of law. Across from her sat Wilson, Coleman, and Mitchell, stripped of their badges, their uniforms replaced by bland khaki prison jumpsuits. The men who once swaggered through city streets now sat with their hands folded like schoolboys awaiting punishment. Their arrogance had evaporated, replaced with the cold reality of federal custody. Judge Patricia Williams, robes flowing with an almost regal authority, addressed the court. "Proceed, Dr. Morrison." Alicia stepped to the podium, her voice calm but carrying steel. "Your Honor, these defendants orchestrated a conspiracy that mocked the Constitution they swore to protect. They profiled citizens by race, tampered with evidence, and turned an entire police department into a criminal enterprise. This was not rogue misconduct. It was systematic corruption. And tonight, justice doesn't wear a badge. It wears the Constitution." Defense attorneys leapt to soften the blows, speaking of years of service, of community dedication. But Judge Williams's eyes never wavered. Service did not erase conspiracy. Blue uniforms did not wash away crimes. When the gavel finally struck, the sentences fell heavy. Captain Wilson, 12 years in federal prison under RICO statutes. Sergeant Coleman, 8 years. Officer Mitchell, 5 years. Gasps echoed, cameras clicked. For the first time in years, accountability had a face, and it wasn't smiling. As the courtroom emptied, Dr. Morrison gathered her files with quiet satisfaction. This wasn't revenge. It was vindication. Professional, constitutional, unstoppable. On the courthouse steps, Detective Davis approached her, the new interim captain, his posture carrying both humility and hope. "Dr. Morrison," he said, voice steady, "the reforms are working. Training has shifted. The community is starting to trust again. You broke the cycle." She studied him, then replied with firm precision, "Federal oversight doesn't end with one victory. True justice lives when compliance becomes culture, and culture takes vigilance." The federal building loomed behind her, marble gleaming in the evening sun like the Constitution itself, etched in stone. A familiar voice joined hers. Attorney General Robert Morrison, her father, stood beside her with quiet pride. "Excellent work, counselor," he said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You proved what I always told you. Constitutional rights protect everyone, equally, no matter their uniform or authority." Alicia's eyes flickered, not with triumph, but with resolve. The battle was won, but the war for justice would never rest. The questions came fast, cameras flashing under the courthouse steps. "Dr. Morrison, what message does this send?" She didn't hesitate. "That constitutional rights remain inviolate. No badge, no title, no office places anyone above the law. Systematic violations will be met with systematic prosecution. Justice is not revenge. Justice is the Constitution." The crowd buzzed. Headlines shifted overnight. Reform over retribution. Constitution over corruption. This was bigger than one trial. Inside the city, the reformed police department trained under new oversight. Classes drilled officers on rights protection, on restraint, on the truth that power served people, not the other way around. Supervisors carried checklists that didn't measure quotas but measured compliance with constitutional standards. Community meetings, once filled with anger, now echoed with cautious trust. Neighbors spoke, leaders listened. Accountability was no longer a promise, but policy. Dr. Alicia Morrison returned to her federal office. Law books lined her shelves, framed awards marked her walls. But what mattered most was the stack of files waiting for her. Each folder was another department, another city, another chance to turn corruption into compliance. Her personal scars had become her sharpest tools. Her father's words echoed again. Justice protects everyone equally. Years later, those reforms stretched far beyond one city. Police departments nationwide became models of compliance, their authority chained to the Constitution by federal oversight. What began as humiliation on a roadside had reshaped institutions across the country. The federal courthouse stood like a monument, not to Alicia alone, but to the democratic promise that the Constitution belongs to everyone, or it belongs to no one. And then the story turned outward, past the courthouse steps, past the federal files, past the camera lenses, toward you. You've witnessed her fight. You've seen justice carved from corruption. Now the question is yours. At Fate Tales, we believe reflection is good, but action is better. Subscribe, share, speak, because awareness is only the first step.